Hello everyone, and welcome to an edition of Moments with MindLeaps. I know that several of you are disappointed not to see Ragona Yashari, who was our wonderful host last week and did an amazing job all the way from North Macedonia. But my name is Rebecca, and I'm the founder of MindLeaps, and I am very happy to be back with you this Friday, following the interviews of Ragona and Lamar over the last couple of weeks. Hello, Emmanuel from Nigeria. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Dielza from Skopje. So great to see so many of our friends. Today's guest is so special and so exciting that it means that he might be running a couple of minutes late. Apollo Levine is the star of a musical on Broadway right now called the Michael Jackson musical, MJ the Musical. And today they got pulled into a rehearsal last minute. So he texted me right before I started this session saying that he's just finishing the final number in their practice, in their rehearsal, in their run through. And then he's going to jump in and join us on the live right now. So in the meantime, I get to answer questions from the audience. Please feel free, friends, to write any questions you would like me to answer. And also tell you a little bit more about Apollo. So go ahead and type away, and I will interrupt my story about Apollo to address questions from the audience. Apollo is actually my hip-hop teacher, and I'm saying it live on Instagram. So Lamar, that means that what you heard actually is true. When I was living in Atlanta working for the Carter Center, I decided that I wanted to learn hip-hop, like seriously learn it. So I started going to hip-hop classes every day after work at the Carter Center. And Apollo was my teacher. And he thought that I was in the wrong class all the time because I would go in with my hair in a bun trying to learn these hip-hop moves. But Apollo was fantastic and improved me in hip-hop. Let's not call me a hip-hop dancer, but made great strides in my ability to at least understand and appreciate the art form. From Atlanta, Apollo then moved to China, where he was the star of a musical there called The Monkey King for 2 years, living in China. Massive star in China. And then made his way back to the United States, doing all sorts of different projects. And now is most recently on Broadway in the Michael Jackson musical. Apollo also was one of our guest speakers, our guest teachers in the new program that we have in New York City, working with an organization called Children of Promise, which is just a remarkable organization that's helping children who have incarcerated parents. And Apollo was one of our guest teachers last month with these youth and had an amazing influence on these young boys as they're looking up to see what their lives might become. And I think all of us wish that we could be Apollo when we grow up. So that is why we are very excited to talk to one of our close friends today. And as I look for questions from the audience, I see Israel joining. Mayuya, I hope you're having a fantastic time there. Emmanuel, I would love to hear about business school. And of course, Bashir, a very happy anniversary. Isapakura Naziza. Okay, what kind of choreography did Apollo do at the session? Can you remember the routine? Oh, somebody's trying to trick me into doing hip-hop moves on an Instagram Live. So yes, the kind of choreography that Apollo did at Children of Promise with the youth that we're working with here in New York City was choreographed to Missy Elliott. So Caitlin and Sadia were very good with it. And it had a lot of moves like, okay. Oh my goodness, like step, step, go, and slide, punch, and maybe when Apollo comes, he'll dance it for us so that it improves over my recreation of the steps. But Apollo's style of hip hop allows kind of even beginners like myself to try to learn the moves and to try to participate in the fun, even though we are not skilled in that particular style of dance, and the kids loved it. So now we're all trying to, thanks Emmanuel. So now we're all trying to encourage Apollo to teach hip hop to us here in New York City. Okay, let's see. Another question from the audience. I see. Okay, what is the New York City program? The New York program, it's 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have our very first cohort of youth. They are 8 to 9-year-olds, 80% boys, 20% girls, and we hope to do multiple cohorts. This particular cohort is also participating in the social emotional learning program and tracker. And skills are improving. Skills are tracking upward, but a little bit slower compared to some of our programs. But we think that's because it's twice a week instead of 3 times a week, which is our preference. Okay. More questions from the audience. Otherwise, we're going to have to recreate more hip hop moves. Hello, Altream from North Macedonia. Welcome. We are just sharing a little bit about our special guest who's in the middle of finishing his rehearsal for his Broadway performance tonight and will be jumping in and joining us shortly. His name is Apollo Levine. Our students in North Macedonia are about to finish their course on cybersecurity and fake news, which has been very timely based on the world events right now. And Altream is one of our star students. Thank you, Altream, for joining. And we are taking questions from the audience until Apollo jumps into our Instagram Live. And, okay. Yes, hello, friends. Okay. Okay, our next question is, do youth in Rwanda like hip-hop? And our Rwandan friends who are online, please feel free to join in my answer. Yes, very popular, especially anything that has to do with Diamond, the Tanzania singer, and the style there in East Africa that's particularly popular. I think this kind of Afro hip hop is the most common right now. Interestingly enough, at the MindLeaps program, not all of our youth are so into hip hop, but there's a good group that are very into it. But it's not as universal as you might think it could be. Okay, our next question. What is the age range for the kids in the New York program? Okay, great. I got the answer correct about Rwanda hip hop. Thank you. Okay, the age range for kids in the U.S. program. Right now, they're a little bit young. They're 8 and 9-year-olds, but we are looking to work with the same age groups that we work with everywhere in the world. So between 8 and 9, 8 is kind of on the young side, all the way up to 18. I think we think in the New York and in the U.S. context, with American culture, younger is a little bit more open to dance than older. But again, it depends on the communities that we're working with. But that's a little bit more the trend, is that our younger kids are a little bit more up for trying new things. But again, it can change depending on where you are in the country. Okay, the next question is, has Apollo traveled to Africa? Apollo's not traveled to Africa with MindLeaps, although we would love to take him to Africa. Apollo has worked with MindLeaps in the past. In 2016 and 2017, we ran programs in Atlanta, Georgia, in the south of the country, for those of you who are not as familiar with our geography. And in that program, we worked with youth who are in school in America, but many of them are recent immigrants. And Apollo taught a summer program for us with these youth in Atlanta. So he's trained in the MindLeaps methodology and the curriculum and is very familiar with our work, even though he hasn't actually taught overseas in a MindLeaps program. Okay, well, hello everyone. If you're joining us right now, we are taking questions from the audience. Our guest today is Apollo Levine, who is a Broadway dancer and singer in MJ the Musical, which is about Michael Jackson. And they have a rehearsal. So they are running through rehearsal, and then they are gonna, Apollo will jump into our interview after that. So in the meantime, I'm getting caught up with lots of friends because I have not been here for the last 2 moments with MindLeaps. And we are taking questions from the audience. Feel free to shout out any questions, and I can also guide them to other audience members. who are joining us from all around the world. Currently, we have represented North Macedonia, Nigeria, Israel, New York, North Macedonia again, and Rwanda, and a couple of other friends, I think, from somewhere in the US, though I'm not sure which states. So we are catching up on Moments with MindLeaps, and we have a lot of different guests who are going to be coming up in the month of March. Some researchers, some people who are on our board, the boards of different MindLeaps parts of our organizations, and getting involved that way. Welcome Olivier from Guinea. Okay, questions from the audience. Do the children in the Brooklyn program like and know Michael Jackson? Yes. There was, I think, actually one or two kids, if I remember well, that were not so familiar with Michael Jackson, but the overwhelming response, absolutely. And they were very good at the moonwalk, Michael Jackson's most famous step. And we're very excited to share their Michael Jackson step with Apollo. So we do see that the universality of Michael Jackson's legacy lives on. He's also very, very popular in all of our Africa programs. And our friends who are joining from North Macedonia will have to tell us if Michael Jackson is popular in Skopje. I don't know that we've actually covered that yet. Hello, Apollo. I see Apollo is here with us. And gosh, Apollo, everybody knows everything about you now. Oh, we have more and more questions. You see any change in attitude? Oh, wow.
Hi.
Hello, Apollo. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you were like running out of our.
Oh my God. We were literally like, why don't we start something? And I gotta go.
Well, Apollo, we have a lot of our friends and guests here from around the world, and I've told them everything I know about you already. So we are ready to jump into questions.
Let's go.
You are very famous from this last 10 minutes of introduction.
Okay.
Okay, so Apollo, tell us, this is fresh on your mind. You just stepped out of rehearsal. What is it like to be rehearsing for a Broadway show versus like dance classes, other training? What's different about that?
It's the thing about building a show. Sometimes in like dance classes, and though I'm like I would be teaching or anything like that, I have a little bit more fun. There's a little bit more leeway. When you get into a Broadway show, especially putting it together and making it solid and all of that, it just does not, like, you have to set it and then kind of breathe life into what you've set. Like, it's really no maneuvering around after that. So that's the place that we're in now. It's open. The show is frozen. So every night it's like, okay, how do we breathe life into this, and what has already been set, for the next year of my life, at least.
I remember when Lamar took me on a backstage tour for The Lion King. Like, the show was over, right? It's like the backstage tour after the show.
Yes.
And
yes,
I
yes.
stood on the line. And he's like, "No, you can't stand there. Like, move to the left, move to the left." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, this is a different kind of standardization."
Yeah, like, you have to know within the show, like, sometimes in dance classes you have room to kind of play around, and like, you don't have to be in a particular spot sometimes or whatever, even though you want to be spatially aware. In this show, especially with this show, you have to be very uber spatially aware, because any wrong turn, any wrong move, it's like, woo, I see all these people on here. Hey, y'all.
You've been invited to Africa about 5 times now, just so you know.
Yeah. Look, I would love to come. I'm waiting.
Now all of our MindLeaps followers are going to start to argue about which country you visit first. So we'll let that conversation proceed on chat as I get to ask Apollo my next question, which is, take us back to the very first night that you danced, and you sang. I know I always say dance, but actually you're doing everything. Danced, sang, acted in this particular musical. What was the first night like?
The first night was our friends and family night. It was like our last tech rehearsal before preview started. So it was all of our friends and family that get to come, and it was so loud in this place. It was so nuts. And it kind of spoiled us to say, like, this is how every audience would be. Every audience is not like that, even though we've had some amazing, amazing audiences. But just having your family and friends there. And I mean, listen, this music is iconic. It's MJ. So to be on stage doing Michael Jackson, this cast is unreal. Like it is bananas. How we've been staged through our director and our writer and you have to come and see the show. Like people ask me all the time, like, what is it like to be in a show? I'm like, you just have to come and see it. I can't really explain it, and that's
Uh,
not just because I like trying to get you to buy a ticket because I do want you to buy a ticket, but but it's not because of that. It really is. It's an experience, and hopefully every night or every time we step on that stage, we give that to everybody. It seems like it's been that way. We keep getting great feedback, but that's what it's like. It's this overwhelming experience that I don't think I've ever experienced in a another production in my life.
oh my gosh, you say it so beautifully and like with so much kind of respect for the history that you're a part of with this show. And
Oh
I
yeah.
see everyone in the chat is now trying to look for the ticket link, so we'll share with you the ticket link. You have
Yes.
just sold tickets.
Thank you.
Okay, so now here we are. We're on Broadway. We heard about this magical moment you just described. Now take us all the way back to like baby Apollo, little Apollo. How did Apollo decide to become a Broadway star?
You know what? I have to give it up to my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Leininger, who has, I believe, has passed since then. But but she was the one. She saw me. I had just moved schools because I was in this special like accelerated program. And one of the things about being a part of the program is that you either had to play in the band or the orchestra in fourth grade, and then you could join the choir in fifth grade. You couldn't join choir before that. But we were in music class, just our regular choral class during the day. And she was like, this boy will not stop moving and he is singing to the top of his lungs. And so she called my mom and said, hey, I thought I was in trouble, but she called my mom and said, hey, I would love to keep him after school to be a part of the show choir. And so that's what it was. And she would bring me in on lunch, teach me the routines to the show choir movements and everything. And then I, in return, would teach the rest of the show choir
Oh my
as a fourth grader.
gosh,
So that's how I got started in
you
all of
were
this.
already teaching in fourth grade.
Yeah. And I never knew that this would be it until one day. It was one of those days in school that, that, they put on a video like they don't feel like teaching that day. Let's put on a video, or it's like a half day. And she put on The Wiz, and I was
Um,
like, "What is this?" I had never seen it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, this was like a Broadway production too." And I was like, "What is Broadway?" And that is where everything kind of stemmed from there.
oh, this is such a good story. I'm so glad this is recording. This is the opposite, Apollo, to my childhood story, where when I was in choir, I was asked to lip sync because I was destroying the class harmony so bad. Completely honest. We're very glad that you're the one on Broadway.
Thank you.
Okay, so then one of the things that I also think is fascinating in trying to track all of your career moves around the world is that you ended up in China as part of
Yes.
a musical. And I know I've asked you this question, and I'm just asking you the same question again because it's still hard for me to understand how all of a sudden somebody just ends up in China starring in a show. Piece together that process.
You know what? It was funny. I was in New York that January, right after New Year's, auditioning for a show, and me and my little brother were walking through Times Square. There's really nobody there. It's snowing, and I said, "Bro, I think I'm gonna move to New York." And he was like, "I've been telling you that you need to move here." And I looked up at, the Coca-Cola bear.
Yeah.
I don't know why I looked up at like the screen and said, or maybe China, out of the clear blue. I had no reason to say it. 6 months later, I'm doing a show in Atlanta, and the choreographer, Bubba Carr,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, he hits me up at the end of the contract for hair and says, hey, I'm about to go to China to do this show. I was like, okay. And he says, do you think that you would be interested? They're looking for um, a Broadway style actor, but that can kind of dance like Usher. And I was like, sure. And literally in a matter of like 3 to 4 days, they had went back and forth to say, hey, no, does he speak Mandarin? I remember them asking me that. I said, yeah, I speak fluent Mandarin like that. I was like, no, I don't speak Mandarin. But I don't know. They went back and forth, back and forth. I didn't have a passport. Some have been telling me all that year, get your passport, get your passport, get your passport, and literally had to get it expedited like in 48 hours. And then I turned around like a couple of days after my birthday, and here I am on a first class, flight to Beijing.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, no wonder I have to ask you that story multiple times.
but it was so cool because the other thing about it was that the whole rest of the cast or were Asians. And I was the only American and black male there. And I had so much fun because some were Chinese, some of my cast members were Chinese, some were Korean, and I had so much fun learning. I can't speak a lick of Mandarin now. Sure, Apollo. Yes, I do. My name is Apollo. That's about all I remember. But I had to learn the script, most of the script in Mandarin. And
Oh
so
my
they
gosh.
taught me so much, and it was the experience of a lifetime that I will never forget.
My only connection to China is that our first, in all of my leaps, our very first high school graduate is Rwandan. And
Okay.
when he graduated from high school in Rwanda, the government of Rwanda was sending people to China for a special trip. And this kid, this MindLeaps kid, had taught himself Chinese going to school.
Oh,
And so
wow.
he got this trip to China. And so we have a MindLeaps student who's traveled to China for a government of Rwanda youth trip and now is back in Rwanda, is managing part of our program in the refugee camps and speaks Chinese.
Oh,
So
that's so dope.
when you go to Rwanda, you are going to brush up on your Mandarin.
I will. I have a couple of friends here that have been telling me, listen, all you got to do is come over. We could do this. I learned how to make dumplings too, and like real like dumplings in Beijing. That was dope. Like I spent like Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is everything. Like
Really?
it's like 14 days of nothing but fireworks going off at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the
Seriously.
morning. But like it is just a celebration, and how they celebrate Chinese New Year is so dope. Yeah.
We might have to do another Moments with My Links where you show us how to make dumplings.
Sure. I hope nobody gets sick, but yeah.
Okay, Apollo, I have to ask you this question. I promise that we won't keep you forever, but we really want to understand. This is like the big Mind Leaps thing is here you go, like you go off and you build this incredible career all around the world, and then like if we kind of open up the door to your heart, like you're so grounded and so humble and so modest, and you talk about how you want to give these gifts to the community.
Yeah.
Tell us, like, how do you kind of like piece together like kind of that superstardom and this groundedness and everything that I've ever seen you do?
Well, I think one, I come from, my dad was like our assistant pastor growing up of our church. My mom has always been in some sort of education.
Okay.
Like she's always, been a teacher, or she led the vacation Bible school or whatever it was. And even up until last year when they kind of retired and everything else, like that's what they were still doing. And so that's a part of where I get it from. My parents are a very, very big instrumental part of that. The other thing is that I used to coach cheerleading. I used to be a middle school, high school teacher, like all these kind of things. So I love kids. And I love seeing them, I come from a small town that says I really shouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Mm.
And so I know there are kids out there like me, regardless if they're the same race or, I'm a part of the LGBTQ community. So to give back to those kids and say, yo, if you have a dream, go and do it in any way that I can help. I don't have all the time or all the money in the world, but whatever I can give back, I definitely want to do that so that they have that sense of somebody has my back, somebody sees me, and yeah, I can do that no matter where I come from, no matter, the color of my skin, no matter, if I'm a little bit different or queer or whatever, you can do this. You got this.
I mean, with Mind Leaps, like we meet so many people all around the world, but there's just some like standout people who speak the way you speak, Apollo, and like walk the walk that you're describing in such a genuine, genuine way. I just completely applaud you for being the person that you are.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And yesterday, I have to tell you, at Children of Promise, if you remember little Josiah, your future Alvin Ailey,
Yes.
his soda shot yesterday, you would have loved it. It ended on the floor, but, you know, in the air, it looked great.
Look, there were some breakout stars that day, and I love that they were really, really into, you know, what I could give them that day. But there were some breakout stars, and I do remember he was one of them. I was like, he honestly, if he wanted to, I feel like he could be one of these Alvin Ailey dancers one day. So,
Well, I think that you've made a huge impression on these kids. We will certainly look forward to having you back. Apollo, before we let you go and get ready for your show tonight,
love you too.
I'd like to make an announcement that Bashir, it's our 1 year anniversary today. So Bashir, our anniversary present is that when you get your visa and come to New York, I'm going to buy you tickets to the MJ musical so we can go see Apollo together.
Oh, that's what's up.
So 2 tickets sold. Congratulations. And thank you so much, Apollo, for everything that you've done for the communities around the world. Have a fantastic show tonight. And thank you for being everything that you are to so many of us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks, everybody. See you next week.